This is Tilly Norwood. She's an actress that some are already saying could be the next Scarlett Johansson or Natalie Portman. Except there's one thing you may not know. Tilly's not real. She's AI generated by a company called Particle 6 out of the UK. So I thought, what does this bode for the future of video and movies and TVs? In this show, I'm going to have my good friend and award-winning filmmaker on, Christopher Sean Shaw, and we're going to dive into that. Here's somebody who lives in Hollywood, who's a producer and a director and writer, and I want to get his take on AI, and is it really going to be the death of the video star? Let's talk about it. So Tilly was created, true, by, or put together, prompted, maybe that's the way I should say it, by a company called Particle 6. They're out of UK, and the founder is Elaine van de Velden. Bless me. And he said a couple of things, and I wanted to get your immediate take on this, because they're saying that Tilly could be the next Scarlett Johansson and Natalie Portman. But he says this in the article. And I will link to all this below. People are realizing that their creativity doesn't need to be boxed in by a budget. There are no constraints creatively, and that's why AI can really be a positive. It's just about changing people's viewpoint. So, Christopher, as somebody who lives and breathes in LA and Hollywood, and you're continuing to produce stuff, I mean, is that true? I mean, do you feel ever boxed in by what you can and can't do?
Well, to a certain degree, sure. But before I answer that in more depth, I just have a question myself. Did we not learn anything from Sarah Connor and Skynet? Anything at all?
Yeah, we know it doesn't turn out well.
And for those who aren't as old as us, I'm referencing the Terminator movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, and
Dun 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 dun.
yeah. So yeah, have you seen the meme where Sarah Connor has the scowling look on her face,
No.
and it says something like, "Sarah Connor, when she finds out you're making friends with ChatGPT."
No, I like that. I like that. She won't be happy.
She won't be happy.
So I'm sure you work within constraints when you're creating.
Absolutely. I mean, the two biggest constraints are time and budget. And even the likes of J.J. Abrams or, Steven Spielberg, or, fill in the blank of your favorite directors, producers, whatever, they would tell you the same thing. I've seen an interview where J.J. Abrams basically said, no matter what your budget is, you're still dealing with time and budget.
So now your movie Church People, which I will definitely put a link down there because people need to watch that.
Thank you.
Roughly 90 minutes.
Yeah, 96 minutes, including credits, just shy of 96 minutes.
Okay. And theatrical release, it's on DVD. I don't know if it's Blu-ray, streaming, everywhere you can find it.
Yeah, not Blu-ray. It is streaming. You can, at the time of this recording, you can watch it on Amazon Prime Video for free. It's on Tubi. It's on Roku, and some others I'm not remembering.
How long did it take you when you started filming Church People? How long did it take you to film that?
The shooting schedule was 20 days.
Wow. Now, to me, I think that's quick. Is that?
It is. It is. I would have loved to have had somewhere between 21 to 23 days, especially for the climactic scene in the sanctuary at the end. There were some shots. There was one shot that keeps coming to mind that I didn't get that I would have loved to have gotten with more time. So at least one more day in the sanctuary would have been great.
So, I mean, and we haven't talked about that before. So is it because, did you end up having to cut things because you realized that we needed to wrap it for whatever budget reasons or the talent or whatever? So did you end up having to say, okay, then we just got to go with this?
It was a decision outside of my control. So
Okay.
I assume the decision had to do with time and money.
Because you were the director of that film.
I was the director and one of several producers, but I was not the end all be all.
So once the movie was wrapped, All the I think we call it principal photography. All that was
Principal
shot.
photography, yes.
How long did the actual editing take?
Um, well, we did have an editor towards the end of production. Ideally, you want to have an editor while you're shooting. So as soon as you shoot, you send it off to the editor. They start ingesting the footage
Oh wow.
and, converting it and all that fun stuff, which takes less and less time now. But when we shot Church People, it took more time. So we had an editor late in the process. Shout out to Michael D. Schultz. He was our editor and Emmy award-winning editor, mind you. Anyway, yeah. So he had, I think, if memory serves, I think he had about 5 to 6 weeks on an assembly cut, and the assembly cut is basically a very, very rough cut
Hmm.
of the movie. And then I got to sit down with him for 10 days as the director, and we went through all the scenes that he had the rough cut of, and we massaged them and tweaked them and whatnot. And then after that process was done, we had a movie we were pleased with. We sent it off to other producers, and then they made their cuts from there. So the cut that I requested the producer, I did 2 cuts because I had a contractual cut, and then I had a cut I wanted them to watch, and
Oh
I was
wow.
asked which cut do you want us to look at, and I wanted them to watch the longer cut. So they watched the longer cut, and then they cut, I think, somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes from there, and eventually through multiple revisions, it got down to less than 96 minutes with credits.
Okay, so I that's fascinating because I think this will actually fit into what we're talking about the AI and the AI generated, which I probably generated is far more accurate than created
Yeah.
actress. So when you were talking about, you said like 20 to 25 minutes, you guys ended up editing out,
Hmm.
and that's things you shot.
Yes.
You
Yes.
wrote, you
Yeah.
act. I mean, the
Yeah.
act
We had 3 writers: Thor Ramsey, Wes Halula, and Bob Sines.
and
So
shot, and
they wrote.
then at some
And
point, for whatever reason, it gets cut out.
yeah, it was a time factor.
So compare that though to the AI, because one of the things that Vander Velden says in the article is
Say it with an accent. Do the entire interview in an
I
accent, Kevin
have to,
Salty.
yes, yeah. It's the only one I probably can do. So there's a 2 minute clip they put together. They call it a sketch where they actually introduce Tilly and some other characters, completely done in 100% AI. I'll put a link to that down below so you can watch it and just see for yourself. But what they say in there is how quickly they can just turn everything around.
Yeah,
So
they say they spent about a month on that production. It was, and I think the runtime was 126,
yeah,
1 minute and 26 seconds.
yeah. And I also read just today that they used about 10 different AI programs, which ironically shocked me. They were all programs you and I have access to,
Yes.
which doesn't necessarily mean either one we ought to use them or two that we would do the same thing. But I guess where I'm going with this is knowing that you spent the time, you invested the time, wrote it, shot it, and then had to cut out that much. Would you have rather had AI just to say, well, look, we'll just exactly put in exactly what we need, and therefore we haven't wasted any time?
Me personally, no, because one thing that AI doesn't provide for you in a production, at least on location, is one, it doesn't provide the on location experience, and it doesn't provide the interactions and camaraderie with the people you're making the movie with.
Mm.
All of that's gone.
Well,
So,
speak a little bit more to that, especially the camaraderie and everything. I even on and off screen. I'm assuming. I mean, I've seen movies where after the fact you find out that that line was ad libbed or something
right.
was made up on the spot. So tell me, talk a little bit more about that, like as in what AI can't do in your world.
Well, I mean, it can't be on location. It can't collaborate with other team members. I mean, I see filmmaking as a ginormous collaboration. You're collaborating with your department heads, the the camera and electric, and the producers. It's a giant collaboration, and so it's not that you don't have collaboration in doing AI, but it's just not the same. I mean, you're most likely indoors somewhere, either speaking or typing prompts, and you're doing that ad nauseum. I mean, one of the quotes. Let me pull up. I took notes, Kevin Colby.
I like that.
So let's see here.
You always love it when your guests do more research probably than you did.
I'm not sure about that, but let's see here. The process is ongoing with constant refinement. So, like, I've heard you talk on your channel about perfectionism and what that's like, and how, people like Sean Cannell say you got to just press record. Well, one of the challenges with not like figuring it out in the moment with a team around you, and the friendships you form and build, and the future collaborations you form and build, even aside from all that, is there is something to say about creativity with limitations.
Mm,
And there is something to say about ad nauseum tweaks and edits
mm,
creatively doing this, you know, talking to um, uh, 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 a non-human,
yeah.
right? Um, so it's lacking so much interaction, and it's also potentially delaying the process if it has to be just like perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean that's more or less my take on that. But I think the bigger take though is the human camaraderie and the human interaction. And I mean, can that be frustrating? Of course it can be frustrating. Can it also be very fun and joyous and laughter, and like you said, with the ad libs and people coming up with stuff on the spot like that?
Yeah.
That's part of the brilliance of filmmaking. I mean, one of my favorite places to be is on set.
Mm,
So you take all that away if you replace it all with AI, not to mention people losing income and all that stuff that people are facing more and more these days.
and everything that Christopher is talking about, I think applies to even YouTube and videos as well. I mean, I most of everything I do now is inside my home studio, but still, I mean, being able to go meet somebody and go shoot somewhere. And you were talking about the perfectionism thing. I saw a recent interview with Stephen Bartlett. I think he's the host of Diary of a CEO, and it was with Colin Samir. There's an inside joke. We won't go there between Christopher and I, but
Oh, we
anyway.
we have to go there. Hey, Kevin, have you heard of Colin Samir?
Yes, I have. I don't know how many things I've sent him, and he's like always, have you ever heard of them? And I still like him despite that. So,
I
but
got that from you because you kept asking me
I
that
know,
question. Have you ever heard of Colin Samir? That's where the joke came from. He
but
started it.
Steven says
Anyway.
in the interview that he had written an email on the way there that day, and he went back in. He had written the email and uncapitalized things and actually put some grammar mistakes in, so people who got the email would know it was from him. And I thought, wow. But his point is very well taken. AI is only going to give you polished, or it may give you, crap because it just doesn't know. But
Well, it's going to give you grammatically polished. However, it may not give you factually polished.
okay, that's a good point. That is a good point. Something if you're watching this and you haven't seen the sketch video that they created, again, there will be a link down below. But something after I watched it a couple of times, and Christopher, see if you picked up on this, except for one or two scenes, anything that had text on screen was misspelled, which is a glaring flaw that I've always seen time and time in AI. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that, but I do want to mention that I showed my preteen daughter
Mm.
the sketch, and I didn't show her the opening that says this was all created with AI. Just like, I wanted you to look at something. And we've had these conversations about AI and how the internet's a scary, dangerous place and blah, 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 so it was in the back of her head. And like early on, she's watching, is that AI? But at the end, she basically said, I could totally tell that was AI.
Wow.
So, is it getting better? Yes. Will it be even better in 6 months to a year? Yes. But there's still tells. For me, one of the big tells is the audio sounds the same in every one of
Ooh.
these AI videos. The audio sounds the same, and there's sort of a I don't have the proper adjective for it, but there's a tell with the audio. The other thing too is a couple of the characters. Um, just the movements weren't right with their skin, and that one of the heavyset characters when he moved and it didn't move right, and it's just I mean it's super nuanced, but you
Yeah.
can still tell. I
Yeah.
mean, are they 90 some percent there? Yeah, probably. But there's still some pretty obvious tells. And again, my pre-teenager saw it and was like, that's totally AI.
Well,
So
and that's fascinating. I'm glad you shared that. I mean, I always think about this. Who is really demanding this? Because if, and yeah, can it get better over time? Maybe. We assume it will. Maybe it hits a tipping point. I don't know. I mean, if I go see the Avengers, I love the movie The Avengers, the first one.
yes.
I don't really believe the Hulk is the Hulk and Iron Man is flying around. I know it's ironically CGI, I believe they call it, or if I'm watching Toy Story, I know it's animation that's voiced over.
Hmm.
But with AI, a lot of this, it's meant to kind of fool us.
Yes.
And, so again, who wants that? I mean, I like watching movies and television shows. I occasionally like to see the shadow of the cameraman, that wasn't supposed to be in you know what I'm talking about, the boom
I
operator.
know what you're talking about. I don't like to see that, but
Well, you don't, but
yeah,
I do.
I hear the sentiment behind it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
like
And
the imperfections.
yes, yeah. And even in Toy Story, take that, they made up bloopers at the end, which
Right.
were funny, but even those were written and had to be voiced and had to
Yeah.
be animated.
Yeah.
And it's just something about that. I want to read another quote that Van der Velden said, and he said, "There's so much tech that's changing, especially around consistency. That was a problem even just a few months ago, especially with environments. Now with characters, you can just take them from photographs, and it's all constantly evolving. You can just take them from photographs, which is supposedly a new feature that's coming one day on YouTube where you can take a photograph and animate it.
Well,
So,
that's our. I mean, there's tools for that already.
so what do you
I
think about that? Just because it's so easy, it just makes life better.
I think it's fun. Okay, here's the bottom line of what I currently think of AI as far as in the workplace, et cetera, et cetera. I think if it's used as a tool, I think there's a valid place for it. I think when you become the tool,
Mm,
that's where you get into trouble. If you're having AI write your papers and you're having AI write your scripts, and by the way, screenwriters out there, there's now rules in contests that say if your script was done by AI, it is disqualified.
really?
Yes, I just saw one the other day.
Wow.
Yes.
I did
So,
see it was months ago, maybe a year ago, there was a photography contest. And the guy that won it, they disqualified because they were 100% sure it was AI, and it wasn't.
oh wow.
The photo was just that good, and I guess he had to prove that no, I took this.
Here it is on my DSLR
Yeah.
or whatever you
Yeah.
use.
So just imagine you're in the middle of your interview and the internet goes out on your guest. Well, it happened to me on this very interview with Christopher Sean Shaw, which is one of the reasons I'm so thankful I was using Riverside. Yes, the sponsor of this video. Did I lose you?
It says trying to recon. I have full bars, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, right in the middle of my question and my comment, he freezes up. Okay, you're frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze too.
Which is not Riverside's fault. It's the internet's fault. Thank you, internet. So what happened is
He dropped from the call. I called him up.
Just pop back in. I'll just make an edit there.
He got back on and we kept going. And thankfully, because Riverside is recording locally and into the cloud, it didn't matter.
Well, the nice thing about Riverside, it'll clean all that up.
In fact, at sometimes Christopher's signal wasn't the best. Again, thank you, internet. But it doesn't matter because when we're done, I can download an extremely high-res copy of our interview because of Riverside.
We're just going to keep going.
So why don't you try Riverside for yourself and make sure you use my code Kevin Colby because then you can save 15% off any paid plan. There's a link below. Use it. I really think you're going to like it. And now let's get back to the rest of the interview, which looks really good because the internet got fixed.
So as somebody who's in the business, especially in terms of films and things like that, directed, produced, written, do you feel a threat by Tilly or companies like Particle 6 or some of these other ones? Do you feel any threat from that job wise?
Like this whole topic, I think it's a very nuanced answer. Me personally, not so much. However, I think where AI has become advanced in sound design and things like that, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're well aware, we both use Final Cut. Final Cut has AI stuff in there that makes things go a whole lot quicker. The voice isolation it has now is really good. There's third-party plugins like Crumple Pop that have AI denoise. So, and it's pretty good stuff. Now, I'm going to give a big shout out here to Kappa Studios in Burbank, California. Is it as good as Kappa Studios in Burbank, California? No. Is it heading in that direction? Yes. So I think there's some legitimate concern there. And, you have entrepreneurs like Daniel Priestley, who has the Score app, Scorecard, and other companies like Key Person of Influence. Influence? Did I just say influence? Anyway,
it is now. Yes.
See, this isn't AI because that was very imperfect right there.
That would have been totally out of there.
And Kevin's not editing that. So,
no.
But Daniel Priestley talks about things like, how to navigate, like, he believes there's going to become a much bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots if you don't figure out how to leverage AI, because it's going AI. AI is to a certain degree out of control. I mean, like you can't like from a human perspective rein it back anymore.
That's a good point.
So it's out there, it's growing, it's advancing. And to answer your question, you were asking like who's asking for this? Well, I think it's just the advancement of technology. People are constantly trying to innovate technology wise, and this is one of the biggest things out there. Innovate, and it does do things a lot faster. So, but all that to say, Daniel Priestley thinks there's going to be a much bigger divide between the haves and have-nots because of the jobs that are going to go away. And so his megaphone sounding is, figure out how to leverage it so that you're on the haves side, so to speak, and not, waylaid in, unemployment land. Because there are ways to leverage, how can you be with the trends and make money on it? And I think we were talking before the recording that the vast majority of people are clueless as to AI. I mean, and I do tend to agree with that. The vast majority of people in the workforce and whatnot are clueless as to what it can do, are clueless as to using. I mean, a lot of people are using AI as Google. It's like an advanced Google, and that's it. They're not creating with it or anything like that. So again, I think the answers are very nuanced. I think there's ethical ways to go about it, and I think there's non-ethical ways to go about it. And when it comes to filmmaking and video production and stuff like that, one of my biggest concerns is not just the lack of income, it's the lack of the human the human connectivity and the human experience. Because again, what Particle 6 did not experience during that month behind a keyboard was going through the casting process and
Mm.
getting to know people and working with those people on location. Again, yes, that can be frustrating. However, it can also be very life-giving. And you form new friendships and new relationships and new collaborations. And I mean, there's a lot of pros to like having to go through the drudgery or whatever of being on location. Again, it's one of my favorite places to be is on set. So there's just something about that experience, and you lose all of that as the sole arbiter behind the keyboard or speaking into, whatever.
Well, and when you were saying that, I thought about the movie Jaws. And, supposedly Bruce, the mechanical shark, what they didn't anticipate is that the salt water would just wreak havoc on the mechanical guts. And so, again, from what I've seen documentaries and read, Bruce the shark was supposed to appear a lot more in the movie, but just didn't work. The irony to that is it actually made it more terrifying.
Yes, because Steven Spielberg and whoever he was collaborating with had to figure out a way around it. And the way around it was to build the suspense without seeing the shark. And quite frankly, that made it a much better movie.
Yeah.
Had we
And
seen the shark more,
yeah,
that would have diminished the horror of that, of the interactions of the characters.
but yeah, just watched it again this year. Like I think it was the
It still
anniversary.
holds up.
Oh, it still holds
It
up.
still holds up. And I guarantee you it would not still hold up as well if we saw the shark more, because it wasn't a perfect mechanical shark.
No. I mean, there's some scenes that's like, really? I fell for that when I was that age, And it's like, well, yeah, I still don't get in the water.
But that's like, let me give another shout out here to the 168 Film Festival, the 168 Film, 168film.com. So I've done several times the speed filmmaking competition that the 168 offers. It's similar to like the 48 hour, only you have 7 days instead of a couple of days, right? But there's limitations there. There's a massive limitation of time because you already have the script because you have like 10 or 11 days to write the script. But then right after that 10 or 11 day period that you're writing, it goes straight into production and you have 7 days, 168 hours to shoot, edit, score, and turn in a finished short film. Complete. Well, there's a lot of creative juices flowing when you're under those kinds of time constraints, And then if you throw in the perfectionism on top of it, if you have all the time in the world, then you might just take all the time in the world before you release anything.
Yeah. When the only thing I can equate that to is in television. When I worked in television, we would have very finite deadlines, whether we were, as a Fox station, we had the Super Bowl every 3 years, and we would run a promotional spot in the Super Bowl to promote something on the station. Well, we might start working on that idea 2 or 3 months out, but you know what? If it wasn't ready by the time the Super Bowl rolled around, they didn't hold the game. So there's something to be said, and we even had other things that we would work with news, and turning around tighter. So there's something to be said about that. But then again, Christopher, I'll be the other voice. Well, why not just use AI just to shortcut all that and just get it done?
Well, here's the other thing we haven't talked about. Unless they sign off, which I would say the vast majority of actors are not wanting to sign off on anything like this. Unless they sign off, you then also lose your current favorite television and movie stars. They're gone. Like no more movies with Tom Cruise, no more movies with The Rock, no more movies with insert your favorite actor.
Yeah.
Or actress. Yeah. Emily Blunt had a very shocking response to this whole thing when she was first, I think it was in an interview recently, she was first told about Tilly Norwood. And she was like, oh my gosh, we're screwed. I don't ascribe to that mentality, especially in regards to Tilly Norwood. But I mean, like it is shocking and it is concerning.
So, something that you mentioned, Christopher, was I think you mentioned the actor's reaction, and Tom Cruise. I think you mentioned him, for example. One of the things that to me makes the Mission Impossible movies exciting is that we've read the articles and we've seen the clips. He loves doing his stunts. It also helps promote the movies. So there's actually the real Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a plane.
Not just the movies, but the movies in theaters.
Yes. And there's Tom Cruise jumping off the cliff and doing the dive and things like that. And if you're just using AI to do that, unless you fake that, then to me, when I'm watching it and I know, again, it's him, he's going to ride that bike off of that and he's going to pop that chute, or he's going to hang off of that plane, or he's going to climb up the building in Dubai. It makes it almost a little bit more real.
It definitely makes it more exciting, and because it is real. I mean, obviously he's still on cables and stuff, but it's still like he's really doing it, and or his stunt teams. He still does have a stunt team, by the way, but and or his stunt team really does it. You know what I mean? But like most of the time, as far as I can tell, it looks like he's really doing it. So that you're right, there is an element of excitement to that is just fantastic. And I mean, yeah, I mean, just as a filmmaker, I appreciate the experience on an even more enhanced level, because not just as a moviegoer enjoying the excitement of what I'm seeing, I know that they really did that, and I know like, and I'm thinking of like, wow, where would the camera had to have been, and how would they have done that, and blah, blah, like, I'm piecing all that together while I'm enjoying the film, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a hindrance to me enjoying it. I think I tend to appreciate it more knowing all the work that went into it. You lose all that if
So
it's just AI.
I personally don't think we're ever going to be at a place, at least not in my lifetime, where everything we're watching at the theater, on TV will be AI generated. I just don't. In fact, if anything, I think there's going to be a place for the real and the authentic. But just for the sake of this conversation, let's say it moves far more into just everything's AI generated. Other than a job and income, as somebody who works in the industry, what do you lose? What do we lose from
The human connection virtually. I mean, like, now, so again, nuance. I think as long as we're not talking about somebody we recognize and it's just the story that we're attracted to, people love great stories. Period. In a story, people love great stories. So if the story is being told well, and we can suspend our disbelief in the viewing or hearing of the story, then in that context, I don't think you can tell. I mean, unless it's just really crappy AI, I don't think you can tell that it's, because you're still going to react emotionally and viscerally to what your senses are perceiving, right? But in our lifetime, like you said, I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime because we still have people that we enjoy watching. Now, in another generation, when they're long gone, I can see that as a possibility because the people making it are saving a ton of money and it's going quicker, and if the storytelling is really good, they're still going to reap massive rewards from that. So I do think it's potentially possible that could happen. But at the same time, I mean, like, speaking of YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, there's still real people on the up and coming. So, I mean, like, everybody who's noticeable right now would basically have to not exist for that to fully happen like that.
Yeah.
So, do I think it's plausible in a future generation? Maybe. But I don't think it's anytime super soon because of all the influencers and whatnot, actors who have in personality brands who are still up and coming and still have a following.
And I also
Such as
think,
yourself, Kevin Colby. Such as
thank you.
yourself.
Thank
There's
you so
no
much.
other Kevin Colby in the world.
Well, then people ought to be thankful for that. So, but think of the craft learn that you lose to. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I've got a friend that's a silversmith. She makes jewelry. She can follow the same template, but no two pieces will look exactly the same. And there's something there in that, in a person's performance that I can't speak because I haven't the same that you can. I haven't directed, but you know, even if you do 6 or 7 takes of, you know, Stephen Baldwin, who's in the movie, and you say, okay, let's do it one more time. I assume there's a little maybe nuance differently there.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I'm sort of kind of known for like saying one more for safety, which there is truth to that. I mean, you got to take, you have a take in the can, but you want to do one more for safety. But another part of the benefit of that, and another one of the reasons why I do that, is because there might just be something better in that next take.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's totally nuance because every take is not identical. Even though it's the same actors, the same camera move, whatever, it's not identical. And there is nuance. And I'm sure you've experienced this, especially as somebody who's struggled with perfectionism, when you're in the edit and you're like, nobody else, I mean, I sort of have to like step back and be like, okay, nobody else knows this other footage exists. So I just have to pick a quality one, right? But I will painstakingly look at like every and when I do editing, I will marry different takes together. I like this piece from that take and this piece from that take, and I'll marry them together. And that's because I want the people to see the best reaction and honestly, it's impossible. Like that sometimes that works, but it's practically impossible. So yes, there's absolutely nuance to each performance, each take. And I think that's valuable too.
So I pulled this quote off of your IMDb page. I don't know if you said it or you saw it and you liked it. It said, "You are the only one who can do exactly what God created you to do, exactly how He created you to do it. You are that unique." I thought that was great. So I want to take this one step further. And as a Christian, we both are, you know, what are Christians' roles in using AI to this extreme?
Um, uh, Again, I think that as long as it's being used as a tool, and if you have the means to hire somebody else to do something, and like somebody else you've collaborated with or whatever, or somebody you want to collaborate with, then I think you should do it personally. Like if you had a decent budget, but again, time and money, like there's always going to be that constraint. So I think if you use it with Holy Spirit led wisdom, and you don't become the tool, and you don't let AI replace your creativity, but merely serve as an assistant to you, then I think there's some validity to that where I'm sitting right now. But I don't know if my answer will change in 5 years, but that's at the time of this recording. I think it's a valid tool. It's in practically every technological industry you can think of right now, especially in filmmaking and stuff. So it's practically unavoidable. I'll tell you one of the ways I use it that I found it very handy is in composing emails and DMs. I don't just throw a prompt in, take what it spits out, and I still edit it. But I'll do like the original, or I'll say what I'm trying to do, and then I'll go in and edit and tweak it so it's, so there's nothing factually inaccurate, or, AI likes to fluff things up,
Yeah.
I don't tend to be over fluffy with stuff, like, you know what I mean? So I'll still make it my voice. But I mean, I've even had like full on composed emails or whatever that I've written, but it's like there's something clunky about it. Like, how can this be more professional, or how can this flow better, or how can I truncate it but still get all the main points across? And I throw it into Microsoft Copilot, and it's 10 times better. And I still go in and edit and tweak it because
Yeah.
it'll still, like, not get things right in my voice or whatever. So I'm still the voice behind it. But if you just throw out a prompt and get all the fluffy and everything, and then copy and paste that, and that's then I think we're going into dangerous territory. It's just like, kids in college or whatever using AI to write their papers, which is happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Sad and scary.
Yeah, very sad and scary. There are currently, I mean, I don't know where it'll be 5-10 years from now, but there are currently tools that, you can throw stuff into that can detect the probability of whether or not and what percentage this is AI. I mean, like I said, and like when it comes to the industry, not only are film competitions disqualifying screenplays, but also, like, there's a whole thing I've heard. I haven't really studied up on this, but there's a whole thing I've heard about when it comes to copyright law and ownership of the IP.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there may be parts of what you've written as a screenwriter, there may be parts that you don't own. And I'll tell you one thing that's a major, major thing for filmmakers and creators when it comes to getting your project to the next level, whether it's through distribution channels or whatever. It's called chain of title. You have to have 100% ownership of that IP so that it can flow through the chain of title from one entity to the next to where it gets released. And if that's jacked up, that could be a world of problems right there.
That's wild.
So that's a major downside, is how much, if your script, if your movie or your script or whatever it is you're trying to sell was AI and you don't own it because of that, because when going through the copyright and everything, it's dissecting that, then what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, there's all kinds of things there too to consider.
Well, I tell you, this has been a fascinating conversation. And we wish Tilly Norwood well. Actually, we don't. She doesn't care.
We
She's
don't.
an
She
AI.
doesn't exist. She's
Yeah.
not real.
Yeah. I actually said her name wrong the other day, and then I thought she doesn't care. She doesn't even know.
No, she doesn't.
So tell everybody where they can get in touch with you, or where they can find out more about your work and your projects.
Most of my handles on the socials, as the kids say, is at Director CSS. So that's Christopher Sean Shaw at Director CSS. Also on LinkedIn, my full name, Christopher Sean Shaw, on LinkedIn. And my website is ChristopherSeanShaw.com.
I see a theme.
My name?
Hey, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you. And congratulations on your YouTube success. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. That was fun. And no AI was even harmed in the making of this. So
That's right.